Are you in the market for an electric car that isn't going to break the bank? Well, this car could be the right car for you. I'm going to tell you all about it in this review. G'day, I'm Matt and this is the GWM Ora. It's a new electric car that's designed to shake things up for the brand that's better known for things like the Cannon Ute and Haval family SUV range. You can think of Ora as kind of like the Hyundai Ioniq sub-brand. Ora will be GWM's electric vehicle lineup. And we're here to figure out whether it's any good and whether it does stand up to be one of the more affordable and better value electric hatchbacks. Let's get to it. Thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing so far. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all those things. I'd really appreciate it if you do, because it helps me bring you more new car content. Thanks. The GWM Ora range is pretty simple to get your head around. There's the entry-level version, which is called the standard range. Then there's one above it called the extended range model. Obviously, it's got a longer range, but they are specified identically, so there's no real worry about what you get in those two different grades. Then there's the GT one, which is the top spec, and the one that GWM reckons is going to appeal to someone who's a bit more enthusiastic or thinks of them as liking sporty cars more. It gets some sporty extras, and it looks a little bit different, but I actually think the look of it on its own is pretty cool, even in a lower spec version. Standard inclusions for all versions are 18-inch alloy wheels, then you've got LED headlights, you've got twin 10.25-inch screens on the inside, and some leatherish material too. It's quite nice inside, we'll get to that soon. Plus, I should mention, all of them have heaps of safety technology as standard as well. Again, we'll get to that. The obvious rivals to this car include, well, the only other electric hatchback at this sort of price point, the Nissan Leaf, which doesn't feel anywhere near as special or interesting or cool as this car, if I'm honest, and it's also a bit more expensive. You're looking at 51 grand starting price, so it makes this look like an absolute bargain. And then obviously you've got the likes of the electric SUV mob, so the MG ZS EV, which is very, very affordable, maybe not quite as cool as this again. And then there's the BYD Atto 3. Now, if you want an electric SUV, then you're not gonna want an electric hatchback. So those two might be better for you. But if you want an electric hatchback and you want it to cost not very much money, this is it. Such a cute little thing, isn't it? Well, it's not as little as it actually probably looks in this vision. Those swoopy lines and all the curves make it look more diminutive than it actually is. It's about 4.3 or just under 4.3 meters long, so thereabouts the same size as a Volkswagen Golf. Just like a Golf, very efficiently packaged in some parts of the car, but unlike a Golf, it's got a very small boot. Let me show you. Small might be a little bit of an understatement. In fact, this is one of the smallest boots on the market for a hatchback. 228 litres of space is all you get. That means this is even smaller in volume than a Kia Picanto. Yeah, it's a bigger car than a Kia Picanto. So that might rule this car out for you. It could mean that this isn't the right car for you. But if you can work with that size of boot and you more prioritise back seat space, well, you might be surprised. And the award for most interesting car interior for 2023 goes to this car right here. Well, at least so far in 2023. The Ora is amazing inside. As soon as you sit in this car, you feel like you're sitting somewhere very special, and that is hard to achieve at this price point particularly. Now, there's some very interesting materials. I'm not sure that any of it is made from an animal, and I think that might be good depending on your perspective. It's quite nice, these stitching, these materials, this diamond pattern finish. There's a nice material on top of the dashboard. The steering wheel feels fantastic in your hands. Obviously there are a pair of 10.25-inch screens, which I mentioned before. That will control things like your media controls and sat nav on this side, and then you've got your driver information stuff here. All of that is very, well, high tech. It does take a little bit of getting used to. There are a lot of menus and not a lot of physical controls. So if you're like me and you love buttons and dials and knobs and those sorts of things, you might find interacting with this car a little bit difficult. There are some controls down here, but not things like a fan knob or a volume knob. You've got a volume controller on the steering wheel if you can figure out where it is, because the controls on the steering wheel are a little bit confusing as well. I guess that's the thing, when you do put everything through screens, you become reliant on those screens. So that's something that you just want to keep in mind if you are looking at this car. Otherwise, I think it's a really special feeling cabin for a car at this price point. Let's just see if it's special in the back seat. Cool. I'm 182 centimeters or 6 foot tall. This seat is set for about my driving position, and I've got heaps of space. This is only a little tiny car, but it doesn't feel it in the back seat. It's got lots of knee room, as you can see. The toe room's a little bit tight, and the knees up position might not be to everyone's comfort levels, but yeah, it's a roomy back seat. Good headroom as well, and you can fit 3 across if you need to. I wouldn't necessarily do it on a day-to-day basis if I was you, but for people maybe with a family of 4, or if you've got young kids, it could be just right. Apart from the fact that there are no rear air vents, and that is probably going to be a problem for some people. Now, there are ISOFIX attachment points on the outer seats, and there's going to be 3 top tethers across the back as well, so you could fit a child seat in any of the positions in the back if you need to. In terms of the storage, well, I didn't really touch on it up the front, but you've got a couple of cup holders up there, big door pockets. In here, you've got big door pockets and a couple of map pockets and a flip down armrest with a couple more cup holders. So you're not really going to be wanting for anything when it comes to convenience in the back seat. Very impressive for such a little car. Every single version of the GWM Ora has the same power and torque outputs, no matter which one you choose. So 126 kilowatts and 250 Newton meters. That's not setting any new benchmarks in the electric car world, but it's not supposed to be either. If they're all the same, so what's different? Well, they've all got the single speed transmission. They're all front wheel drive. Let's talk battery range then. So the entry-level version, as I said, is 320 kilometers of range. Then you step up to 420 Ks for the long-range version, and you step back a little bit for the GT, which is tuned apparently for a bit more sporty driving character, and it has 400 Ks of range. So it's not necessarily changing the game, but it's also very affordable, so you got to keep that in mind. One thing I wish that they did have in here was a frunk, a storage area so you could put your cable or something like that, because the boot's not massive. No matter which battery size version you choose of the Ora, it's a front wheel drive with a front electric motor. So it's got 126 kilowatts and 250 Newton meters of torque. That's not setting any new standards for power and torque for the hatchback world, but I guess this car isn't designed to be a hot hatch, so just keep that in mind if you are looking at something like this and thinking, well, this could be a good alternative to a Golf GTI or something like that. It's not that kind of car. It's much more focused on efficiency, and I'll tell you more about that in a sec. But from what I can tell so far on this very quick drive, the steering is okay. It has a bit of feel to it, which is good for an electric steering system. It's also got a lot of electric aids that try and keep you in your lane. Even though there's no lane markings here, it keeps popping up with a bit of an emergency warning trying to stop me from hitting things. I'm sure there's a way that you can turn those nannies off. You probably have to do it every single time you drive the car. That's not uncommon. Anyway, for a car that's riding on 18-inch wheels, doesn't have the hugest wheelbase, the ride is quite comfortable. Sure, this isn't your typical Sydney backstreet or Melbourne suburban road, but yeah, it seems to be riding pretty comfy. Like I said, this is just a very brief drive of this car in a artificial-ish setting. This is kind of like a country road drive. I can't wait to have a bit more time in the GWM Ora driving it on city streets to see how it behaves in that sort of situation. And in those sorts of situations, you will be able to take advantage of the single pedal drive mode. So basically you can just take your foot off the accelerator and it'll slowly bring the car to a halt, kind of like some of those other EVs out there. And it's certainly a little bit more balanced in the way that it progressively slows you down. Some of them can make you feel sick when you take your foot off the throttle. It's a little bit noisier than I was expecting it to be. There's quite a lot of road noise, wind noise, some rush coming over those mirrors, for example. We're only going 100 k's an hour on this test track here, which is very much representative of a Aussie country road. And yeah, probably not as silent as some EV customers might want their EV to be. Stay tuned. If you do want me to do a more urban focused review of this car, let me know in the comments section below. When it comes to efficiency, GWM claims that no matter which version you buy, it'll do 15 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is very efficient for an EV. Just like a petrol car, the lower the number, the better. And some competitors, I mean, you know, EVs that might cost similar sort of money, might be up around 18 to 20 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks. So yeah, it's going to be pretty efficient in terms of how it uses its power. Charging is another thing, of course. I've put some details on the screen so you can see how quick it charges in certain situations. And obviously, I'm not necessarily driving it how I would drive it if I owned this car, so the efficiency that I'm seeing on the screen is not really that relevant. But it is an important thing to consider because, like a petrol car, the lower the number, the better. And 15 kilowatt hours per 100, if you can achieve that, that's very good. The GWM Ora, or Good Cat, or Funky Cat, or whatever it's called in the other markets, was awarded a 5-star Euro NCAP safety rating in 2022, which is just further proof that the Chinese brands really are taking safety seriously these days and making, well, much safer cars, it has to be said. So it's got all the technology that you would expect to achieve that 5-star rating, including autonomous emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assistance, and there's blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert with auto braking at the back as well. And then it comes to the airbag coverage. You've got curtain airbags for the front and rear seats, a bunch of front airbags, including a front center airbag as well to stop head clashes in the event of a side impact. Yep, this thing should have you covered when it comes to safety. Get yourself a GWM vehicle and you'll get a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is very good for any warranty in Australia. There's also unlimited kilometres for the battery. When it comes to roadside assist, 5 years included, which is pretty damn good. And then you've got cap price servicing for 5 years as well. For one of the most affordable compact electric cars on the market, this is probably different because it's cool and also compelling. I actually really like this little car. I think it's got a really nice spot to sit in the market underneath the likes of the Nissan Leaf and Mini electric hatchback, but also offering something that isn't an SUV for those people who don't want an SUV like the ZSEV or BYD Atto 3. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Do you like this car? Do you like the look of it? Would you buy this car? Well, I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to see any other electric car reviews, also let me know what you'd like to see. I'll try and get to it. Thanks for watching.